the bees' lemonade, Michaela travels across the world to encourage other kids to dream big.
What's going to make it unique?
At an event in Houston, Michaela teaches her eager audience about the fundamentals of business and finance 101.
My dream for the company is to have a even more measurable impact on the amount of kid entrepreneurs in the United States. I want to save more bees. And then I also want to have a national lemonade enterprise.
A recent $810,000 investment from current and former NFL players is helping Michaela achieve her goal.
It was important for me to help in any way I could to aid her dream.
So you dream it?
For Michaela, it all started 8 years ago with a lemonade stand.
I got stung by 2 bees in 1 week. I was so afraid of the bees that my parents encouraged me to do some research on them. And I found out that they're dying. So I decided to create a product to help save the bees.
Her recipe for honeybee sweetened lemonade infused with flaxseed was a hit even in the Shark Tank.
I'm going to give you an offer.
It's a deal.
Turning Michaela's one-time lemonade stand into a full-fledged business.
I didn't expect it to grow as quickly as it did and be so widely received.
I went from one store in one city to over 20 states now.
Michaela's bottled lemonade now sold in 90 Wegmans and 116 Whole Food markets. Now that's the power of believing. What were you doing when you were 12 years old and 4 years old? Welcome, Michaela, again. You were with us some time ago. So proud of you. So incredibly proud of you. In over 200 stores, doing as well as you are. You're helping kids all around the country and the world. What have you learned the most?
Yeah, so I definitely learned a lot, but the thing that I learned the most is that you can't be discouraged. And so what I say is don't be discouraged by life's little things, but get back up and break your way.
Did you hear that? Get back up. You leave like that. Your mom, your dad, your brother are here. It's a real family affair now. Everybody has done things. You know, do kids, I mean, what's your passion here in wanting to help others, especially other kids?
Yeah, so I have a huge passion for teaching kids entrepreneurship because the kids today are going to be our future tomorrow.
That's right.
Yeah, and if we teach them about how to create a business based on a problem, they can create their own business like I did. And I saw that the bees were dying. They can see all the other problems and say, hey, I want to create a company.
Because we got a few problems out there. Yeah. So if you all can come up with a business like Michaela did and solve it, we really would appreciate that. Okay, so we've got these wonderful kids here. Some are for, what is it, World of Money. World of Money, it's a nonprofit that helps kids get involved in business. You have a question. What's your name first?
I'm Mariah Elliott.
And what's your question to Michaela?
What pieces of advice would you give to children who want to start their own business? Oh, that's a good one. What pieces of advice? Well, I would say that there's, of course, a lot of pieces of advice, but like to create a business that you're passionate about. But I would say to set smart goals and plan your company. So the first one is set smart goals. So if you achieve that goal, it will motivate you to want to set another one. And so that will result in growth in your company because you're achieving all these goals. And then the next one is plan your action. So you want to make sure that you've got a budget or a business plan and that you're not doing step 8 before you do step 2. So you're like running your business at the right pace. That's what I would say to help,
prioritize like that. Make sure you work for that. That's good advice there. And you, young lady, Microsoft is summer camp that they help with business. What's your name and what's your question?
My name is Amira Archibald, and I was wondering, how do you balance out school, extracurricular activities, and being CEO, all while maintaining a normal childhood?
Well, a lot of people expect me all just to go to business meetings and conferences, but actually what's true is that we always find time to hang out as a family and, of course, to go to school. So I still have to do my homework and I still have to do my chores, but we do have to balance school, family, and our business.
So that you do have fun time, right, Mom, Dad? Right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, you make sure that you factor that all in like that. Okay, that's some great advice that you're giving. And you and the family, you have started a nonprofit. What is that about, the foundation?
So we just started Healthy Hive Foundation, which is a foundation to help save the bees and encourage kids to become entrepreneurs. So we focus on research, education, and protection. So learning about the bees and why they're dying, educating kids from a young age of how we can save them, and protecting them. So actually taking action.
Taking action. Once again, what were you doing when you were 12 years old? What you're doing, that is wonderful, and that you have gotten a lot of support. I know that there's some current and former NFL players in your hometown of Houston. They have
Actually, Austin.
Austin is awesome.
But I love Houston too.
Okay. I love that. Hook 'em horns.
Yes.
I'm gonna make sure I get
Yes.
that right. But just what's your last piece of advice for anybody who wants to start a business and go for their dream?
Well, she just said it. You have to believe in yourself. You have to go for that dream. So if you've got a company that you're putting off, know that you already have what you need the most. And so I would say just try at least to start it and see how it goes from there.
And what makes your lemonade different?
And she was honey, it's got flaxseed, and I'm a social entrepreneur.
There you have it right now. And she's good here to be. Thank you, Michaela. Thank you to your family. Good luck to all of you.
Okay, I love that. Let me go back to my PowerPoint and
I started Daily Harvest because I wanted to create food without compromise.
so
That means real, nourishing food that's made from actual fruits and vegetables, not junk and food. Knowing exactly where that food comes from, how it's grown, and food that's practical for our busy schedules. High quality organic ingredients are a must for our food, which is how we do things.
sorry, I'm just trying to.
We
Okay, so let's go back to the PowerPoint and let's take a look at and let's talk about the learnings from Michaela. So when we talk about entrepreneurship, and did anyone catch how old is she? Did anyone catch that? How old is she? Anyone? So she's 12 years old, right?
Yeah.
And right. And so let's think about, and who can tell me, let's see, Rachel, can you tell me one thing that you learned from the video listening to Michaela? Like what was some of the advice that she gave us or you to be in order to be a successful entrepreneur? What did she mention? Did you catch anything? What's one thing you learned from that video? What was some of the advice that she gave? Do you remember? Okay, how about Lucas? Did you catch anything? What's one thing that Michaela said that that she suggested to be that would help be a successful entrepreneur? Did you catch that? Okay, I'm getting a lot of comments here. So you're right. Plan and prioritize. Somebody also mentioned following your passion, right? That's an amazing one, right? Do something that you love to do, right? Oh, somebody mentioned setting goals. You're absolutely right. Oh, yes. Victoria, you just said you shouldn't care about what others think, just do what you love to do. And you're right. That's a great reminder, right? Because sometimes we're so concerned about somebody else or concerned about making a mistake, and it could prevent us from, being successful because that would, stop us. So you're right. Just moving forward, if we want to do something, just do it, right? I love that. Let's see, any other comments on that? Oh, what about finding and giving back? I love that Michaela actually found a way to give back and educate other entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs, right? So she was not only an entrepreneur, but she's also helping kids her age become an entrepreneur, right? So she's got classes and workshops on that. And so there's kind of a giving back element to what she's doing too, right? And she's sharing her knowledge. So I love that too. I actually found that that was like kind of an amazing thing, right? She's helping others be successful just like she is. Oh, building a good team with strong support. Absolutely. And it looks like Wenwei, you had mentioned that, so that's perfect. Dream big, I love that. Dream big is an important one too. So somebody said having big dreams. The other thing I found very interesting was having a plan. They mentioned that, having a plan with a budget and setting SMART goals. And I love the fact that she mentioned SMART goals, so that way you can, you know, have successes along the way, right? And something specific and measurable. And so having goals is a good thing, right? So lots of learnings from Michaela, and a good reminder that even you can be an entrepreneur at your age. So let's continue on with our discussion. I love this, and it's so true. The sky is the limit, everyone. And I hope that you believe that. Okay, let's take a look at the next slide. And let's talk about, obviously, Michaela has an online, an e-commerce website where you can purchase product, all of the different types of lemonade, in addition to buying it at some of these stores that she mentioned. But let's talk about the reasons. What are some of the benefits to being an entrepreneur? Can everyone start listing things in the chat for me? What do you think? Why would you want to be an entrepreneur? Or what's the benefits to being an entrepreneur? Let's start listing them. What ideas do you have? Okay, and as you post them, I'm going to share them with the group here, just in case you're not reading them. Okay, let's take a look. What ideas? Okay, obviously, Jack mentioned earning money from selling things is a great, exciting opportunity, right, for all entrepreneurs, right? Because you hope that not only do you grow your business, but you also earn money doing so. Somebody mentioned achieving your dreams, and you're absolutely right. That's a great way to, you know, if you have an idea and your business becomes a reality, you can, you know, hopefully your dreams have come true, right? And so that's a great way to make your dreams come true, is if you have an idea, you make it happen, right? And through hard work and a business plan, just like Michaela said. Oh, I love this one, Victoria. Setting an example for other people, right? When we do good in business and we make good choices and we're nice to people, and you know, and we also maybe give back, like Michaela did. She said that she set up a foundation. Those are things that now people look to her, and she set a good example. So you're absolutely right. Setting a good example is another benefit, and another way to help others and show that you're doing, you know, the community and society, you know, you're giving them some benefit. Somebody mentioned being a rich dad. Let's just say you obviously want to be in business and want to be an entrepreneur because there's potential to make money, right? And I want you to think about too, since we're talking about this, I'm sure someone has mentioned to you before or asked you the question, maybe even in school, what do you want to do when you grow up? Well, this is one option that you have, is to be an entrepreneur, right? So I want to find out if anybody here has ever considered starting their own business. And if you haven't, what other career choice have you considered? Why don't you go ahead and put that in the chat? But if you have thought about starting your own business, what is your business idea, just in general? Okay, somebody said being a teacher. Yep. Let's see. And you're right. Somebody had mentioned you can start a business at any age, and you are absolutely right. I love this one. Wenwei, you had mentioned becoming a YouTuber and having your own merchandise. That's certainly very entrepreneurial. So absolutely, that's one way. We all know that there's a lot of business potential with YouTube these days. Somebody mentioned being a designer. That's also very entrepreneurial. Airplane flying school. So question on that, you obviously could either run your own airplane, maybe pilot school, or you may be thinking about attending. I'm not sure which one, but certainly opening up a flying school or a pilot school could be, very entrepreneurial. I mean, essentially that might be your business. So that's a great one. Being a scientist. So all of these have the potential to be your own business. In fact, you may not want to work for a company. You may want to have your own business or your own company, right? Where you have your own employees. So these are all potential opportunities that many of you have already identified. But we're going to look at now, let's take a look at this. If you take a look at some of the benefits of being an entrepreneur, some of which you just mentioned, somebody mentioned following your passion. And that's really what we mean, doing what you love, right? If there's something in life that you absolutely love doing, how can you make money doing that, right? So that's kind of a challenge and a good opportunity for you to figure that out. You can also make your own schedule. So you can determine when you want to work. If you want to have your hours be 9 to 5 instead of a specific time every day, that's up to you. So entrepreneurs have that ability. You're also your own boss, and you get to work with people you like. And what do I mean by that? You get to work with people that you like. Well, imagine you selecting who your employees are, right? So if you run your own business or have your own business, then you can determine who's going to work with you on a daily basis. Maybe you're going to hire your family members, or maybe you're going to hire a really good friend of yours. But you have the luxury to do that as an entrepreneur. So that's amazing, right? To be able to determine who you're going to work with and who you're not going to work with. That's a luxury that an entrepreneur has, right? So Michaela may have her parents as part of her business, right? And so she determined that or was able to determine that because it's her business, it's her company, right? So that's kind of fun. So these are just some things I want you to think about in terms of the benefits of being an entrepreneur, right? Because you could do basically whatever you want to do. So we talked about being your own boss, pursuing your passion, making an impact in the world. Can anyone tell me in the chat, what do we mean? How did Michaela, or how is Michaela, who started the business, Me and the Bees Lemonade, how does or is Michaela making an impact in the world? Does anyone remember what she mentioned in terms of the bees? What was she trying to do? Let me look in the chat. Here, let's see. Okay, yep, she was trying to sell, she was selling lemonade. Yes, so you're right. She was not only, I love this. Victoria, you mentioned saving the bees, even though she was initially afraid of them, you're right. And then somebody also mentioned, let's see, it looks like teaching, also saving the bees, right? So she was not only teaching other people how to be an entrepreneur, but also saving the bees, right? And educating people about bees and the benefits they are and that they provide, you know, in our environment, right? So there's lots of opportunity that she has to not only benefit by having her business, but also to give back. And you're absolutely right. So that's how she's making an impact, right? And she's a good example. Somebody just mentioned she's a good example. I love that. Yep. Andrea, she was trying to save the bees. Yep, absolutely. So great. And then she's also in control of her success, right? And remember, we talked about risk. So if the business doesn't do good, isn't doing well, then she also is, that's the risk, right? But hopefully she's doing well. And so there's potential to benefit too, right? And that's what we're talking about, risk and reward when you run your own business, right? And she controls her own schedule too. Remember, she said, what did she say about business meetings? She said, what do people think, that I'm in business meetings all day? No, because she can determine, you know, the importance, and she recognizes, and I love that, about going to school, right? Doing her chores, having her family life, right? And we talked about the balance. And that's kind of a nice thing when you're an entrepreneur, is being able to balance your life, right? So I want to show you a couple things as it relates to how do you go about building a successful business? Does anyone have any idea where you might start when you think about running a business like Michaela? So what are some things that you need to start thinking about or deciding on? Why don't you go ahead and write that in the chat? Any idea that you have? How do you start a business? Let's think about that. And I'm gonna look in the chat and see what ideas people have. So what are some things you need to think about when running your own business? I bet if everyone takes a step back and thinks about Michaela's business, it all starts with an idea, right? And something that you're passionate about. Does that make sense? So we're going to take a look at a quick video here on just that very idea of starting with an idea, because that's where Michaela started, right? She didn't like bees. Her parents had her do research, and then she came up with this idea of a lemonade and also an opportunity to help save the bees. So let's take that idea that I'm talking about and let's dive into that concept a little bit further. Okay, so let me just quickly show you a video on starting with an idea. Okay, so let's take a look here and let me make sure.
Described in Captioned Media Program, in the classroom and online, dcmp.org.
Film Ideas Incorporated presents Biz Kids, Crash Course on Starting a Business.
Almost anyone can start a business, and there are 5 key steps. Christina.
Are you sure there aren't 7 steps?
Devin. I heard there were 9 steps. All right, there are a lot of steps, but this is a crash course on starting a business. Amanda.
I don't know if we should associate the words crash and business in the same sentence.
Then how about we start with the first step, the idea.
I thought the first step was marketing.
Marketing what? The idea.
I thought the first step was to make a profit.
Profit off what? The idea.
I thought the first step was the funding.
Again, funding what? The idea.
How about a plan?
This is all part of the plan to sell the idea. Okay, so first you get the idea.
Now, any idea how we end this?
I have no idea.
We're entrepreneurs who made millions from magic.
2 girls throw money.
I was going to middle school and I wanted magnets for my locker.
And I drew up some designs and I put them in a bottle caps, put them into my locker, and snack caps were born.
Maddie,
I don't really know how the idea necessarily came to me. I just saw a bottle cap and thought I could come up with something from it. After I'd seen such a positive response from friends, I decided that other kids out there probably would like them. And I went to my mom and I said, can I sell these? And she said, okay, well, first we need to go out to the bank. And I had saved up all my money and I withdrew $300 and my mom matched this amount and that was used to buy supplies. I just walked into the toy store and said, hi, my name's Maddie. I'm 10. I'm wondering if you wanted to sell my product. And she decided to give me a shot since I'm a kid. And turns out they actually sold. We were approached by a sales rep here in Dallas that wanted to sell snack caps for us. And now we have tons of sales reps across the country that sell to all 2,500 of our stores. We made about $10,000 in revenue our first year. We're in the millions right now. It's kind of crazy. I never really would have thought that it would have gotten this far. I just thought maybe at the most a few local toy stores. My sister is the vice president of M3 Girl Design.
Margo.
I help Maddie come up with ideas because I really like fashion and also I know what my friends like. My favorite design is probably my dog, Annie, because I really like her a lot. And that was one of our first designs. I've got to say working with my sister is most funnest of all.
This is where our employees make snack caps every day, and this is where bottle caps turn from this into this.
A necklace.
I draw all the original artwork, and then we have employees who reproduce them. It just started off as an after-school project, and my mom, sister, and I would all make snack caps together, and now it's, I guess you could say it's kind of turned into like a snack cap empire. I think a good idea is something that you don't have and that you can't find, but that you want. Just make sure that whatever you do is your passion. My passion is art and I love to create. And so that's why I came up with snap caps, because I got to incorporate my love for art into what I do.
The described and captioned media program provides services designed to benefit students who are blind, visually impaired, deaf, hard of hearing, and
so when we're talking about okay. So when we're talking about this entrepreneurship and and the idea, which is a great example of what we just saw, you can see that they mentioned a couple things as it relates to how do we come up with an idea. And you saw in that video that just looking at those young ladies that loved art, that are very creative, that's something that they are passionate about, and that is the idea or the business that they came up with these bottle caps. I mean, who would have ever known that you could start a business with simple bottle caps and some colored pens and markers and maybe some magnets? And now they're generating millions of dollars in revenue just from a simple idea. And it's something that they're passionate about and they absolutely love doing, right? And so that's what we're talking about. Businesses start with ideas, and it's a great way. So let's talk about the different elements. And I want to see, somebody mentioned understanding if there's a market for your business, and you're absolutely right. Obviously, once you come up with the idea, you can ask the question, right? Is there a market? Do we have customers for our business? But if we look at this list of questions here and the different elements of a business plan, you first come up with that idea. So my question to you is, has anyone ever come up with any idea for a business? I want to find out. I want everyone to list any brief idea of any business that they've ever considered. So let's talk about that, okay? So can everyone just list in the comments about just one idea that you may have for a business? So let's start doing that. Okay, and let's take a look at it. So we've got one person that lists a game company. Okay, this is a great segue into just kind of understanding what entrepreneurship is and that everyone is mentioning their ideas. Selling necklaces, I love it. So somebody mentioned, yeah, selling necklaces. What's the another idea? Somebody mentioned, oh, bracelets. I love that. That's a great idea, bracelets. So these are all things, so you can see already how many people, how many participants, all of you have such great ideas. And these are things that you've already thought of. So you definitely need to consider and think more about your ideas because these are really great. Selling artwork. Okay, we have an art fan here. We have somebody that loves to draw or maybe paint. I love it. Okay, and selling toys. Oh, and knitting clothes like scarves. I love that. That's excellent. Oh, somebody's into origami. Okay, excellent. Recyclable water bottles. Excellent. So I want you to think more about this because I appreciate everyone sharing all of their ideas. And to wrap this up, I'm going to leave you with some things to think about, okay? So I'm just going to switch to my last slide here, and I want you to think about this. Okay, here's my request. Think about your idea. What makes your idea different? Okay, so these are all the things I want you to think about. And hopefully I'll see you in another class where we can work on this in more detail. How would you grow your business? Who are your customers? Meaning what ages? Is it boys or girls, you know, male or female? How much money would you make? What are your costs? Like how much will it cost per item to make? And how much would you sell it for? Because the difference between those two is your profit. And these are just some high level questions just to think about, but that's my ask of all of you. All those great ideas that I just read, those are amazing, and think about them in more detail because this is the kind of thing, these are the kind of questions that you would have to outline and answer when you put together a business plan. Okay. Anyway, I've really enjoyed working with all of you. You've already come up with the idea. So now you just need to expand on those ideas and begin to develop your business plan. And that's what an entrepreneur does. So thank you so much, everyone, for participating. And it looks like we need to, yeah, all these great ideas. It looks like we will be wrapping up. And I know that we have Ray that's going to be talking about Investment 101. So we're going to wrap up, and I hope to see you at another class real soon. Thanks again for your time, everyone, and hope to see you soon. Goodbye.
Thank you, Jamie. And right now we will welcome Ray to talk about Investment 101 class. So
okay.
Would you pick? Yeah. So if you have any question, you can contact our WeChat assistant. The ID is already in the chat room. So we're gonna give like a Ray couple minutes to go on. And yeah, I'm gonna talk to Ray too.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Hi, Susan, right? You can talk.
We're on.
Oh, hi, Ray.
Hi.
Hi. You can share. It's your time. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen.
So we're also wow, we have a lot of participants today.
Yes.
They're all from different countries and all different age groups, or are we mostly the younger set? All right, let's see. Okay. There we go. Hey, we're at the New York Stock Exchange, which is where we want to be if you want to make money. So, well, you just talked about entrepreneurship, and that is honestly one of the best ways to make money. But it's not the only way, of course. There are a lot of ways to invest in a business where you don't have to be the one responsible for running the business. And that's what we get into when we talk about investment. We have a variety of classes that we have here at Wisdom Academy, where we go over, or VisWise Academy, where we go over different types of investments. In the first class, we go over a lot of different types of investments, including stocks, bonds, investing in businesses, commodities, foreign exchange, even diversifying into collectibles and art and things like that. There are a lot of different ways where you can invest money and hope to make money. You even talk about cryptocurrencies a lot. So there are good reasons to invest in all of these things. And there are different reasons to invest in all of these things. But one of the most popular things to invest in these days, of course, is stocks. So we have a variety of classes where we talk about stocks as well. And it's a progression where we talk about introduction to investment, then basic how to pick a stock, and we start doing stock picking competitions. And then we can see who's going to be a better stock picker. And it's a fun time. And then we take it to the next level where we really get involved in how to pick the best stock and how to do financial modeling and things like that. And eventually, of course, we get to the point where we get to investment competitions. So I'll talk about each of these courses a little bit. I'm going to talk about the beginning courses more than any, but well, I'll cover some of the things that we go over in all the courses, because some of the people who started in our very basic classes have now advanced through some of the more advanced classes and are now thinking about applying to colleges, and they're getting involved in college stock picking competitions. And we're happy to help them with those sort of things. So we've had a lot of students be very successful with this program and continue on through several seasons and have taken what they've learned and applied it to the next level. They're going to be ahead of the game when they get to school, and they're going to be proving their skills in these competitions, and it's something they can put on their college applications. So I don't know how many of you are old enough to be thinking about applying to college yet, but trust me, you will one day, and you'll want to have something like this on your resume. So today we're going to talk about the introduction to our youth investment classes. We have several of them. We're going to talk about saving versus investing. You notice it's not saving and investing. There's not an and there. That's a different thing. It's versus, because they're two different things. We're going to talk about inflation. I didn't even put that on here, but that's a big reason why we invest and not save, because of inflation. Inflation is bad for you if you're a saver. It is bad for you as a consumer because prices go up, which means the value of your money goes down, which is why we want to either start our own business or be an investor in other businesses. So we'll talk about specifically why we should invest in the stock market. We'll talk about some of the more advanced concepts we get to at the end of the first course, like the time value of money, and that continues on into the second course. And then we'll talk about how the stock market works, and we'll get into the stock track trading game, which is always fun. And that's one of the most fun parts of the game, of the class, I should say, not the game, because each class we have a new competition where the students get to try to be the best stock picker and the best investor. And they apply the skills that they've learned in each of the courses to become better and better and better as they go along. And I've noticed that a lot of the students, when they start out, they just pick stocks that they heard about from other kids, or they heard about on TV, or they heard about from their parents. By the end of the courses, we've got students who are doing the research. They understand which stock is the best stock to buy and which stock is the one you don't want to buy. And then we go on to teach things like portfolio management and things like that in the later classes. We're not going to get into that too much in this introductory class, but we are going to talk about some of the most basic models for investing in stocks. And one of those things, which we teach not in the first class, but more likely in the second, is top-down asset allocation. Well, we'll talk about sectors of the economy and doing economic analysis. Economic analysis is key for picking stocks, because you can't just throw a dart at the dartboard and expect that stock to go up. If it's in an industry like, I don't know, let's say copper mining, and industrial stocks are going down at the moment, well, your stock is going to go down no matter what. So this is a key thing when we talk about this top-down asset allocation and investing in the economic sectors. And I'll teach you how to do it for all of your different sectors, for all of the different economies, including your economy. And I noticed that some of you are in Japan, some of you are in China, some of you are in Canada, and some of you are in the US. And we can look at the economic indicators for each of these countries and figure out which country is going to do better, which country you should invest in, which sectors of the economy you should invest in these different countries. These are all things we take into consideration. So we've got a series of 5 classes right now. We start with Investment 101, which is what I was describing to you earlier, where we talk about all the different investment vehicles, businesses, entrepreneurship, investing in stocks, investing in bonds and loans, investing in commodities, investing in art, antiques, collectibles, investing in cryptocurrency, things like that, and comparing all of them to one another. And as it turns out, over the long term, stocks have been one of the greatest investments. Oh, I forgot to mention real estate, classic cars. There's so many things you can invest in. But anyway, over time, stocks have been one of the best places to make money, other than owning your own business. But owning your own business can be hard, and it can be very volatile, and it can be very risky, because you could lose all of your money. So investing in stocks is probably one of the best and most popular ways for everyday people to invest. So our next class really starts to focus on investing in stocks, and we call this class Invest in Your First Stock. And that's where we start talking about introductory stock picking techniques, where we look at how to compare one stock to another. And I can show you how to do all of these different techniques to find out which stock is a better stock to buy. Then we go into the next class, which is intermediate equity analysis. And that gets a little harder. And if you stick through the first 2 classes and you're ready for the 3rd class, then you're ready to be a good stock picker. So the intermediate equity analysis gets into more difficult concepts about how to figure out the intrinsic value of a stock. Because there are ways you can figure out exactly how much a stock is worth and compare it to the price it's trading at on the stock exchange. And the price that it's trading at in the stock exchange may be higher or maybe lower than where the stock is at, what the stock is actually worth. So it's important to know how to figure this out. So we're not going to get into that too much today. We might go over a couple of things, but I want to give you an overview of mostly the first 1, 2, 3 classes. The 4th class, we're not going to get into it all today. That's investment portfolio management. That's where things get, they're not really difficult, but we get into other concepts like risk management, because risk management's very important. It's not really managing your stocks that's important. It's managing losses if you don't want to lose money. And then the last class we get into is pretty intense. That's about financial modeling, when we get into predicting how much money is a company going to make each quarter. When you watch TV and you're watching CNBC or Bloomberg, and a company like, let's say, Tesla reports their quarterly earnings, they have a news flash, and everybody says how much money they made, and the stock either shoots up or shoots down. And the whole point of the financial modeling class is to try to predict exactly how much money a company is going to make. So you can estimate if that stock is going to go up or going to go down when they report their earnings. So these are different classes we have, and they have different levels of difficulty, starting from the easiest and getting to the most difficult by the end. So we start by talking about saving versus investing, and not saving and investing. Now, there's a big difference, and investing. Usually when people talk to you about saving and investing, they say saving and investing, saving and investing. They're not the same thing. Saving means you're putting money into a piggy bank or under your mattress or somewhere else. And investing means you're actually buying a business, or you're loaning money to a business. That's usually how people invest. Or they're buying real estate, for example. But it's a big difference, because investing involves cash flow. You're getting positive cash flow. If you invest in a business, you get the profits from that business. If you're an entrepreneur, as we just discussed in the last class, you get the profits from that business. If you're saving instead of investing and just put the money under your mattress, there's no money extra coming out of there. It's just staying in there. And it's probably going to become worth less and less over time. Because what is money? Does anybody know what money is? Since Jamie's really good about being interactive with the class, so I'm going to ask you, what is money? Does anybody know what money is? Anybody want to raise their hand? Ethan, go ahead. Tell me what money is.
Money is like a type of currency. Before we used to I forgot, like trade, but then someone just invented money as a currency.
That's a pretty good answer. That's a really good answer. And the thing is, you hit the nail on the head right there when you said it makes trade easier, and it's a currency, and currency makes it easier to put a dollar amount or a number amount on each item that we're trading, instead of trading 5 goats for a cow, and you have to make change with 1 chicken. You can do it with dollars, which makes it a lot easier. And currency has taken different forms over time, and that's one of the first points we try to make. But this money in particular is not a hard asset. It is a piece of paper. Like the currency that we talked about previously, like the chicken and the goat, well, that's an asset. You can eat it, you can get eggs, you can get milk from a cow. But money these days is just paper. And that's one of the key concepts we want to teach. And when we talk about cryptocurrencies too, because a lot of people are excited about cryptocurrencies, they don't like paper money. And the reason is that governments tend to just make more of it. And there's supply and demand. So of course, everybody wants more money, they demand more money. But if the government just creates too much of it, then the price goes down. And that's kind of what happens in real life. Now, the thing about currency in general, not just paper money, is that it's an agreed upon value. So if everybody generally agrees that it has a certain value, then it maintains its value. And that's a good thing. A stable currency is a good thing. But countries don't have a very stable currency. So in order to prevent the currency from being unstable, we used to have gold coins. Gold is rare, it's limited in supply. If you go out and want to make a gold coin, you're probably going to have to find a stream, or if you're in Canada, you probably know a place in the Yukon where people are mining for gold right now, and they dig it up, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, and it takes so long that it would take you maybe a month in order to find enough gold to make 1 ounce of gold. And 1 ounce of gold has been trading a little below $1,000 recently. So over time, you know, the amount of time it takes you to find gold is basically like working for minimum wage in New York City. The amount of time you put in, you could either just work a job and get that amount of money, or you can mine for gold and make that money. That's why gold is actually very valuable. It's not easy to find. It's very hard to find and very rare. And that's why from ancient times, gold has been used as a currency, because you can't fake it. You can't duplicate it. You can't make it up. So it's the real thing. And that's why you have gold medals. That's why you have gold medals in the Olympics. That's the #1 prize. You can't fake it. You can't make it up. It's got the ultimate currency value as a stable currency. So this is something. Why isn't it worth more if it's so hard to find? Yeah, that's a good question, Robert. The answer is this. Gold has maintained its value over time. So it has a very stable value. If it takes you 4 weeks or 5 weeks of panning for gold in a stream in the Yukon to find an ounce of gold, well, it still takes you 4 or 5 weeks of panning a stream in the Yukon to find an ounce of gold. So it has a stable value in terms of the time value of money. But the value of the dollar, the Canadian dollar or the US dollar, has gone down, 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 down over time, whereas gold has maintained a stable value. Anyway, so the whole point of this is to talk about inflation and why we should be investing and not saving. And so the way we start this conversation is by talking about currency and why currency has a stable value. Generally speaking, a stable value. The government will always tell you that they're promoting price stability, but that's not true anymore. They used to promote price stability, but now they don't. Now, look, here's something interesting about that dollar I just showed you. Here's why we have price stability in this country, in the US and in Canada and in other countries. This is not a regular US dollar, it's an old one. So this is from 1957. And at that time, we were on something called the gold standard. So you can see here at the top, it doesn't say $1 US, it says silver certificate. So in a lot of countries, there's hyperinflation. Countries will just print money and print money and print money, and the price of a loaf of bread will go from $5 to $10 the week after, to $20 the week after. It'll keep doubling and doubling and doubling. This happens in countries all the time around the world. Like right now, we've got hyperinflation in Zimbabwe, in Turkey, in Venezuela, and it's hard to get out of that. So the one way we got out of it in this country, and a lot of other countries got out of it, and I'll tell you how the other countries got out of it in a second, is we base the money on gold and silver. It says here, this certifies there is on deposit in the Treasury of the United States of America, $1 in silver payable to the bearer on demand. You could literally take this dollar into the US Treasury, walk into the building, and they would have to give you silver. And Robert, good question. They've changed it over time. So we'll see another one right now. Some are green, some are black and white, some are pink now, or salmon colored, I would call it, I don't know. Anyway, the point is this. We stopped hyperinflation and got everybody to agree upon the value of the dollar by basing it on gold and silver. So how it started, here we go, $10 in gold coin. How it's going, oh, uh-oh, no gold. Gold is gone from the equation. So this is why we have inflation. The government wants you to have inflation. Now, here's how other countries around the world got stable currencies. They used the US dollar as the reserve currency. So the US dollar was based on gold, and other currencies like the Canadian dollar were based on the US dollar. They would buy US dollars and put them in a vault and say, our currency is based on the US currency, therefore it's not going to go down in value. And as long as the US currency didn't go down in value, it was fine. This is called the Bretton Woods Agreement. It happened after World War II. Anyway, why does the price of gold change? It goes up and down depending on the rate of inflation, which is what we're going to talk about next, because the government wants inflation. It's bad, but it beats the alternative. Now, what is inflation? Inflation is when the value of your money goes down. So we can see here the value of the US dollar, and this is sort of reverse engineered to $1 being recently. And you can see how much more you could purchase back here in the 1900, 1920 range. The dollar was worth $25. And then we set the gold standard, the Bretton Woods Agreement we just mentioned here, blah, blah, blah. But the value of gold was abandoned here, and the value of the dollar kept going down, down, down. And we can see the money supply keeps going up, up, up. And this causes the price of things to go up a lot. You can see things like even your money you can make, wages, goes up a lot, but not as much as some of the things you need, like prescription drugs, medical service, car insurance, college tuition. You're all going to have to pay for that. It's going to be more expensive than it is now. And the textbooks you got to pay for. Housing keeps going up. Food and beverages keeps going up. The prices keep going up. And the reason is the government keeps printing money. It's 21%. Now this is old. It's more like 30 now% of all US dollars were printed in 2020. That's an old one. Here is the Federal Reserve Economic Database chart of the amount of money in circulation. And you can see it went up, and then when COVID-19 hit, they just printed a ton of money. And this chart is old too. So I tell you what, one of the things we get into when we start doing these classes is looking at things like this. And one of the things we look at, and you can see this is a lot worse than the one in my slides. We're up at around $20 trillion now. It just keeps going up, keeps going up. This is a place called the Federal Reserve of St. Louis, and they keep this economic database. And they have all sorts of information in here that you can use to do economic analysis and financial analysis, and to predict the price of stocks, and to predict interest rates or the growth of the economy. And if you get a little older, maybe some of you are doing this now, if you start programming in a language like Python or R, you can download all of this data for free and use it to calculate things. But anyway, let's continue on to, so Robert asked the question, why wouldn't the government stop printing money when they saw inflation was happening? Aha, that's the key point. Very good question. So the answer is they actually kind of like it, because if they don't have inflation, they have the other thing, which is deflation, and that can be even worse. So just to point out, here's CPI less food and energy. This is what they call core inflation. And they take out food and energy. So here's all items, this dark red line. I don't know why these are both red. And it's kind of all over the place. The government takes out the stuff that goes up and down a lot so that you get this core number, all items less food and energy. And it looks like everything's fine. Everything's under control. Government's got it all under control. But that's not true at all. Let's say, here's the same one, and it's so smooth now you can't see it, because look at this scale. This is 75% to negative 50% growth. It's a lot smaller than this 7.5% to negative 2.5, right? It's a lot larger, I mean. And here's gasoline, and it's all over the place. Inflation's real, and it's bad. And for you in Canada, you're not immune. So I know I'm just looking at the US numbers mostly, but Canada's got the same problem. It's happening everywhere now. Governments have been printing money because of COVID-19 shutdowns and lockdowns, and we have a lot of inflation. And that causes the price of things to go up. And the reason governments do that, to get back to Robert's question, is that deflation is worse. And here we have deflation during the Great Depression. And there are several reasons why deflation is worse. Look at how much negative pricing we had here. The reason it's worse is this. To summarize it in a nutshell. I'll switch to the next slide. This is Japan. We have somebody from Japan here, so we can see when Japan got stuck in a deflationary cycle, it got stuck there for a while. And what happens is, if the price of everything's going up and you want to buy something, but it might be more expensive tomorrow, you'll probably just buy it today. But if the price of everything's going down and you want to buy something, might be worth less tomorrow. So I'll just put my money under the mattress and wait for the price of the thing I want to buy to come down, and I'll buy it later for a lower price. That's what happens when deflation happens. And then the thing you want to, let's say it's a car. Well, let's say it's a TV. Let's say it's a TV. If you don't buy the TV today and you wait till tomorrow or the next year, well, the store that sells the TV might go out of business because they're not selling any TVs. And if they're not selling any TVs, they're not buying the TVs to the TV factory. So the TV factory has to lay off all of its employees, and the economy starts going down, 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 and it gets stuck in a really negative cycle. Yeah, so Jerry, that's you, you're catching on. So they're printing money to not only to pay for things, but to inject liquidity into the economy so that we don't get stuck in deflation for the reasons I just mentioned and others. There are other reasons. Let's not get into that too much, but the thing is, if you get into a deflationary loop, people stop spending money, and then if you borrowed money from the bank and you can't pay it back, the bank loses money, the banks will go out of business. And so what happened in the US, you can see when we happened to have this really negative deflation spike here, we had a severe financial crisis. We had a severe recession. So that's why governments print money. If they're going to make a mistake, they're always going to lie to you, tell you that their first goal is price stability, which means a stable currency. But that's not their goal. If they're going to make a mistake one way or the other, you better believe it's going to be on the side of inflation. So they're going to make sure the price of things keep going up. So don't think that saving and investing are the same thing, because they're not. So investing means you can make more money. Saving means the value of your money goes down over time and you can buy less with it. And we prove this example with this chart that's seen over and over again. It's maintained by a professor at one of the very famous business schools. And this is real return. And what real return means is the value of what you have less inflation over time. And you can see the value of the dollar is in blue and gold is in yellow. Gold is stable, and the value of the dollar was pretty stable too when it was tied to gold. But then when we broke the dollar gold standard, gold maintained its price and the dollar went down. So $1 in 1802 was only worth a nickel recently. And this is 2016, I think, is when this chart is. These are short-term loans, bills. These are long-term loans, bonds. But look at stocks. $1 invested in stocks in 1802 was worth $1,136,042 by the end of 2016. That is why we like to invest in stocks. Look, investing in bonds is good too. You didn't lose money there. So that was good. But really, if you want to make money, there are a couple good ways. Number one, start your own business. Be an entrepreneur. But number two, an easiest way, be an entrepreneur by investing in somebody else's business, by buying stock in a company. If you buy stock in a company, what that means is you are the owner of the company. Or if you're buying shares or stocks, you're buying shares of the company. You share the company. You share ownership of the company. That means there may be 100 owners. You might be one of them. So you might get 1% of the profits. Or there might be only 2 owners and you're one of them. So you get half the profits. But for a lot of the biggest companies that we know, there are a lot of share owners. And each share is entitled to a certain amount of the earnings. And that's called earnings per share. And the more shares you own, the more earnings you get. So your money can make money for you even while you're not working. So that's a key concept. So when I say that currency, the dollar, for example, is a store of value, it's an agreed upon store of value. The value it's storing is the value of, if you're saving, the value of the work you've done, the goods you've sold if you're an entrepreneur, the services you've provided. You earn the money, and that money represents the value of what you've done. And you can use that money to do other things like invest, which means that you're working 2 jobs. You can keep working your own job, but your money works for you because it's doing a job too. It's investing in a business and it's helping run another business. So even while you're sleeping, your money can work for you. So that's like having 2 income streams. That's the whole point of investing. That's why we like to invest in stocks. And so one of the themes we have when we do these first couple of courses is we talk about your friend Lucy here. You can see her here. She wants to run a lemonade stand. And we're going to talk about how she's going to do that business. And she wants you to be a partner of that business. She wants you to be a partner. But you're an entrepreneur too, and you've got your own job. You've got all these other jobs to do. So you're making money on your own. And you don't have time to participate in her lemonade business, unfortunately. And this is a theme we have that runs throughout the courses. All right. So what happens throughout these classes is we go through a series. I'm going to keep talking, but give me 1 second here. I'm going to figure out what's going on with my power supply. My screen just started getting dim, which means probably what's going on is my power supply is not plugged in correctly. So that didn't take very long to figure out. Go on vacation for just a few days. All my stuff is unplugged. Give me 1 second. Okay. As I was saying, there we go. As I was saying, we're going to go through this whole series of businesses that you're going to invest in and show different examples of investing in equities, investing in bonds and things like that. But one of the ongoing themes is going to be your friend's lemonade stand and how that works. And we're going to show you exactly how investing in your friend's lemonade stand is going to make you money, even though you're not actually there running the lemonade stand with her. She wants you to help her build the lemonade stand and run the lemonade stand. But instead, by investing your money, what can happen is she can use your money to help build the lemonade stand and hire somebody to help her run it. So you're actually doing the same thing, helping her build the lemonade stand and helping her run it, but you're not actually physically doing it yourself. You're doing your own job. So your money's doing the work for you and making you money. That's the whole point of investing. So Robert asks, what determines if the stock goes up or down? Like, does it go down if a lot of people sell it? Yes, that is exactly why it goes down. But we get into that in the future courses, and I'll talk about that real quickly. I don't want to get into the too complicated stuff too much, Well, we do get into things about how to figure out when stocks are going to go up and down. So anyway, so back to the investing in the business. One of the things we talk about is how to analyze a business. And we start doing it in the early courses because it's important as an entrepreneur to figure out how much money a company is making. And so I'm not going to go over this income statement today because it's going to be boring, but we do it in the class and we do it in a way where it kind of makes sense. So you can figure out if your friend is making money or not. And you can figure out if your money is making money. And in this example, what happens is because you can't participate in an investment, you invest money. And we do go over some math. Now, I don't want you to be bored to death, but I tell the students this over and over again. Math is for making money. Algebra is for making money. Calculus in particular, I know you haven't gotten to calculus yet. Maybe you're only doing pre-algebra now, but it's for making money. And a lot of your math teachers probably don't even know this. They just study math and they teach you math. If you ask them what is it for, they're probably not going to know. But don't be the student in class who's crying, woe is me. Why would I ever use this in real life? Why do I have to learn this? Because you will, you will use it. It's for making money. And if you know how to do some math, you will be able to make more money than everybody else. So, but we start with the basics and we start with the time value of money. And we introduce the time value of money and compounding over time. And the way we do it is visually, so it's easy to understand. So let's say, I'm going to go over it real quick. Let's say that you loaned your friend $100 for her lemonade stand. And after 4 years of going to high school, you're going to sell your businesses. She's going to sell her businesses. She's going to pay you back your investment plus the 10% per year. And then you're going to go to college together. So everybody's going to be lives happily ever after, right? Because you're saving for college. But you're also investing in her business because you're investing for college. So let's say she's giving you 10% per year. Now, a lot of times people think, okay, if you get 10% of $100, that's $10. So I'll get $10 every year. That's not how investing works. That's not how the stock market works either. It compounds over time. And the way that works is, yes, in the first year, you get 10%, which is $10. In the second year, you get another 10%, which is also $10. But the money you already earned also earns 10%. And then by the third year, the money you've already earned, also makes another 10%. And the money you earned in the second year also makes 10%. So the $100 makes another $10. The two $10 you have already earned make $1 each, and the $1 you already earned makes a dime. And in the fourth year, the same thing happens. The $100 earns another $10. The previous three earn $3 more. The $3 you already earned make 30 cents, and the dime you earned makes 10% also, which is a penny. So even in a short amount of years, a short amount of time, you went from earning $10 a year to earning $13.31 a year. See the point? The time value of money, the power of compounding, the amount of money you earn is like a snowball. The earlier you start, the better. And over time, the money grows and grows and grows and grows. And that's how investments work, which is different than if you were a saver. And let me emphasize this point again. If you saved $100 4 years later, do you know what it would be worth? You'd have $100, but it would be worth less. All of this you could just cross out. You wouldn't get any of that. You just have $100. So investing is very important, and it's much more valuable than saving. So we do go over the math, and I'm not going to go over it today, but this is simply representing the pictures we just showed you with the numbers. And then we show you how it works, and there's a formula, and we walk you through it so that it's not painful, so that when you get to something like this, you'll actually understand what it means. Where the future value is the present value times 1 times the rate of return raised to the power, and I use this. If you do programming, you probably know that it's going to be double asterisk in Python, not a caret, but in R and in Excel spreadsheets, it's a caret. Anyway, yeah, so we get to that eventually, but we get to it gradually and slowly, so you don't have to memorize the formula, because look, if you guys don't remember the formula, you can always look it up online. But I'll show you how it works, and I want you to understand how money grows like a snowball. It grows and grows and grows. And so the greater your rate of return, the faster it grows. The earlier you start, the more it grows. Some of the richest people in the country, like for example, Warren Buffett, have made all of their money by investing in the stock market. And they started at your age. So if you invest in the stock market starting now by opening a Robinhood account or an eToro account, or if your parents have a brokerage, they can set you up with a sub account with some better firm than either of those that I just mentioned. Then if you start investing in stocks today, you could be like Warren Buffett, become one of the richest people in the world. So anyway, one of the fun parts that we do, in addition to teaching about investments and picking stocks, is we do StockTrack.com, which is our stock portfolio simulator. And we have our rules where we give you $1 million and let you buy stocks, and we have some other basic rules. Somebody raised their hand. Who raised their hand? No, somebody had a question? Okay, I thought somebody had a question. Anyway, so let's look at that real quick, because this is always the fun part. I'll flip over here real quick. Oh, here we go. My little thing's in the way. And here's kind of what StockTrack looks like for me. This is a class we did earlier. This is Invest in Your First Stock, which is our second. So we have Investment 101, our intermediate stocks, and our Invest in First Stock. And we can see all the students, their #1 pick was Tesla, then Apple, then Boeing, then Chevron, and then Bank of America, it looks like. And you can see how everybody's doing if you look at the rankings. And this is the most competitive part, because everybody can see if things are going up or down and how they're doing compared to other people. Because we can look at the rankings and see what's going on, and then we can see everybody's portfolio to see what they were buying. So we have a whole bunch of different stocks. And I always teach students to be diversified as possible. But I don't always try to win the competition. Sometimes I'll intentionally make a mistake. And sometimes, like I just did one just now when I dropped my little pad. Sometimes I'll make a mistake and I'll tell them what the mistake is, and I won't necessarily correct it right away. So you can see what happens. And so, for example, in a recent one, I invested in the cruise lines right when COVID Delta was coming back. And we watched to see what happened, and the cruise lines went down. But you can see we've got a whole bunch of different stocks here. You may or may not be familiar with these symbols, but by the end of these courses, if you take these classes, you're going to know all of these companies. You're going to know that you're going to know this one's Goldman Sachs. You're going to know this one's Johnson & Johnson, because we're going to go over a lot of these. Oh, what? Not showing the website? Come on. You gotta be kidding me. Okay, so I hope you can see this now. Sometimes Zoom gets a little finicky. I'll go back to what I was showing you at the beginning. So here's my dashboard, so we can see what everybody's been buying, and then you can see who's winning and who's losing. Nobody's losing here because we're all learning, right? So a lot of these students, this is our investment, Invest in Your First Stock, which is our second level class. A lot of these students, like these names I remember, they are now through all of our final courses and are investing in college level stock picking competitions because they're in 8th grade going into 9th grade, or they're already in high school. So you can take these courses over a number of years. By the time you get to high school, you can start working in college level investment competitions. So there are several that we participate in. Some of them are very prestigious. Right now we have a whole bunch of teams going to the Wharton competition, for example. Now, disclaimer, we're not affiliated with Wharton, but we do have students that are participating in this, and there are a lot of them, and I'm sure they're all going to be very successful. So it works like this. So obviously you have to pick stocks. We're going to figure out how to do that throughout these courses. But you just go in here to trading and you go to buy stocks. Now this one's going to tell me no, because this class ended. So if I switch to a more recent one, it's ongoing, and that's going to let me do it. Okay. And then you can pick a stock, and let's say we want to buy Apple, right? So the ticker is AAPL. And let's say we want to buy 100 shares of Apple. We put in the quantity. Now it's telling me the market's closed, so it's going to execute this trade on the open tomorrow morning at 9:30 when the bell rings on the NASDAQ. And there are all sorts of things we can look at here. We can see the charts. We can see an advanced chart, candlesticks. We can see it over different time periods. We can see technical analysis widgets. I don't know if that popped open for you or not. You might have to do a separate screen share. There's company news down here, analyst ratings, price history. But let's just do the trade. Put in a trade note. Oops. I like iPhones. And there, I bought the stock. So the other things you can do, you can look at the company news down here. This is always helpful. We're going to go over all of these things in the classes. Analyst ratings, everybody loves the stock. And you've got a lot of price history and financial statements and things like that. Anyway, let's get back to the slides real quick. There are a lot of different websites which we're going to go over, which show you how to find information on where you start picking stocks. And one of the things we teach first, and this is one of the most important ones, is top-down versus bottom-up analysis. And the difference between the two is that with bottom-up analysis, you just start picking stocks, either based on valuation or growth rates or all these things that we're gonna investigate and learn how to analyze over time. But top-down is also a very valid approach. In fact, it's probably more important, which is where you look at the overall economy. You look at the economies of different countries, you look at different sectors within the economy, and then you pick the companies based upon which sectors are going to outperform within the economy. And you pick the economies based upon which countries may outperform other countries. And one of the ways we do this is we look at things like economic indicators. And this is what's happening this week right here. And while we were talking in the previous class, I added all of our countries in there. We've got China, we've got Japan, we've got Canada, we got the US. And you can see all the key economic data that's coming out. Here's inflation. It's red hot. It's 5%, which is a lot higher than it should be. Of course, core inflation, the government will tell you, everything's under control. It's coming down. But the real inflation is actually really high still. Same thing for Canada. You're not immune. It's going up. It was estimated to be 3.9%. It's a lot hotter. Previously 3.7. What do we have? What's going on in Japan? Got some machinery orders that really slowed down compared to previous estimates. And let's see, China, we've got housing prices. So you probably don't want to be investing in a housing market in China right now because prices are starting to slow down. Industrial production looks like it's slowing down a little bit as well. So if that continues, that may be a negative sign. And these are the things we look at. And we'll look at these different indicators, and I'll teach you how to look at each indicator and think about which sector of the economy is that going to impact? Which industry is that going to impact? which specific company is that going to impact? And you can use this information to help you start picking stocks. Now, if you click on the main screen here, they have some headlines. And of course, they've got your sortable scorecard. So we can see which countries are doing the best and which countries are doing the worst on all of these different categories. And I'll teach you how to use all this stuff. All right. So let's wrap it up. So basically what that does is it helps us start thinking about how to pick stocks based upon the different sectors of the economy, like information technology and healthcare, consumer discretionary and financials. For example, if interest rates go up, financials can make more money because they make loans. So if interest rates go higher, then banks can make more money. Consumer staples, oh, that's things like food and beverages. Oh, if inflation goes up for them, that might be bad. There are things like real estate. Oh, let's say the same thing. If inflation or if interest rates go up, then real estate companies might do poorly because, for example, they have a lot of mortgages that are based on floating rates. So if interest rates go up, they're going to lose money and the value of their real estate might start to go down. So you can look at something as basic as that and decide where you want to invest. Do you want to invest in financials because interest rates are going up, or in real estate because interest rates are going down? So you would rotate from one to another. That's a real simple stock picking technique that we get into. And then in the future courses, we start talking about more complicated things like earnings ratios, price to book, price to sales. We figure out how all these things work. And as you can see, they impact all of the sectors differently. You can see that technology has done really well during COVID-19, or energy went down, like an MMA fighter who got knocked out, went down, hit the canvas, and stayed down. So there are different indicators that will make sectors do different things. So you want it to be in technology and not in energy. And we talk about diversification and how diversification works. Diversification means you can get all of the returns, but less volatility, less risk. You can diversify away risk. And then in the future classes, we start getting into things like financial analysis, where we look at calculating income statement rates of change and things like that. And we look at the companies that you love and enjoy, like Tesla and Apple, and we'll actually look at Apple's financial statements to see if things are growing or shrinking. And then we get into things like stock picking, equity valuation. We talk about things like relative valuation. Let's say you were looking at two companies that do the exact same thing. They both make pickup trucks and SUVs, a company like Ford and GM. And you want to decide which one's the most expensive stock. Well, the price of GM is a lot higher than the price of Ford, right? So obviously you would think that the Ford is a lot cheaper than GM, so you'd want to buy Ford, right? But that's not a good way to measure it, because one company might have more earnings. They might be paying you more money. And maybe that's why the stock price is higher. And that's why we start looking at things like PE ratios, where P is the price and E is the earnings. And if you divide the price by the earnings, you can figure out which company is the better buy. And in this case, it's true. General Motors is making $5.86 per share, where Ford is only making $1.05 per share. So if you do the PE ratio, here's the P, and you divide it by the E down here, you're only paying $7 for $1 of GM earnings, where you're paying 8 times earnings for Ford. And then we talk about what happens if Tesla comes in with a PE ratio of 150. So there are a lot of different things we go through and different ways to figure out which one's the best buy. And we talk about industry analysis and all sorts of things. And we get into a lot of stuff where we compare all these things and we look at different companies and decide which one's the best buy. And that kind of looks like, let me show you. I'll show you a couple of these. That spreadsheet ends up looking like this eventually, where we figure out which company's doing well. Oh, looks like this one, Keurig Dr. Pepper, and which company's doing poorly. Oh, looks like Monster Energy isn't doing that great. And we figure out how to do this stuff in real time. One way to do it with Excel, if you watch this, I'm going to click on refresh, and it's going to change all the prices. And that's going to update all of these ratios because we've done some analysis on all these companies. And now we can see that things have changed a little bit. So we're going to learn all these tricks and techniques. But this is in future classes. This gets complicated. So this is going to take you a couple classes to get here. Anyway, so let's go over the portfolio management class. Just to give you a brief overview, we'll talk about correlation and diversification. We'll talk about things like beta. It's a little bit advanced, so we're not going to get into that too much. But the basic concepts are figuring out which are the best stocks and getting into stock track and buying the stocks that we think are going to go up and down. And a lot of times, people will just buy the stocks they know, and that's usually a good thing, a good way to get started. But other times, what we want to do is look at the other stocks and see if the other stocks are actually a better buy. If maybe they're growing faster and the stocks are less expensive, then maybe we should just buy those other companies that. Okay, so anyway, that's a brief overview of the things we're going to cover from beginning to end. We're going to start with basics, money, the time value of money, why we invest instead of saving, why we should invest in stocks, and then we're going to start talking in a future classes about stock analysis. We're going to get into the stock trading games. We're going to have competitions. The top stock pickers are going to earn prizes. And by the end of the classes, as you approach high school, you're going to be able to be confident in participating in college investment competitions, and you're going to be able to perform well. And something you probably put on your college application resume. So that's it for me. That's my overview. Does anybody have any questions? Well, you had a lot of great comments throughout this whole session. So I think that you had a lot of good ones. Excellent questions. So if you have no more questions, then I guess I'll turn it back over to the hosts.
Okay. Thank you, Ray. Yeah, thank you. So if anyone have more questions about our class, and you can add the WeChat, our assistant on the WeChat, WizWise 2021. So you can ask more detail about our class in the future. And thank you, Ray. And so today's WizWise public class is going to be end. And thank you for everyone. Yeah.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Okay, bye.